Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, this is Adrian. I'm the CEO, founder of Career Agility International. I'm here with my lovely team, Yen and Gabrielle, and also Regina, who's behind the scene, and she's doing the recording and the equipment handling. So she won't be in much of the shots today, but wanted to touch base with all of you again, the HR community, because we are seeing very increased uptick in terms of interest with regards to retrenchments and how to do it right. As I mentioned earlier, we anticipate some would call it a bloodbath at the end of the year, but I'm a bit more optimistic about it. I just think there's going to be some restructuring going to be done. But the most important thing is, how do we as HR practitioners do it correctly and do it right? We want to introduce Yen. And Yen, do you want to say a few quick words?
Hi everyone. I'm working from home today. But one of the key things that we want to share with you are some takeaways, all the good, all the bad, but mostly to learn from past cases so that we don't repeat them, or that at least with the benefit of foresight, we can plan better.
Okay, fantastic. So let's get cracking, and I'm going to pop over now and share with you my screen. So today we're going to talk about retrenchment practices. Okay, we're going to talk about case studies. It's a taboo subject, and a lot of companies, a lot of HR schools, they want to talk about it and they do cover it, but today we're going to do something interesting. We're going to compare and contrast. I'm not just going to tell you stories. We're going to compare and contrast the three companies that have conducted retrenchment exercises. Okay, the first being Surbana, and that is the famous textbook case. We're going to talk about DFS, which happened only very recently in October last year. And then we're going to talk about something that happened in 2017, 2018 in Australia, which is Toyota. And we're going to compare and contrast. It's a study in both practices. It's also a study in leadership, because we want to compare and contrast how each individual leader managed it, and in the bigger scheme of things, who came out looking better, who didn't. Okay, so for those of you who may not be familiar with us, who are we? We are Career Agility International. We are a very dynamic team of very experienced career coaches. We focus a lot on helping organizations, helping individuals actually to achieve the career clarity they need to enjoy a more fulfilling, a more sustainable career. But as far as corporations are concerned, our clients, we have a lot of big corporate clients whom we help out with their career development programs. But we also do a lot of outplacement, retrenchment exercises, consulting work for them as well. So that's where our experience comes in. And some of our clients we have here, it's a growing list, and it's been a very busy year last year. And a bit more about the authors, about the authors of the book, which we have over here, which is Exit Management Handbook. But today, that's about me. I've been a headhunter. I've been a career coach. I'm on radio as well, and on 91.3 with Jen and the Flying Dutchman every Thursday morning. It's quite a fun session. Those guys are quite crazy. And Yen, who's our executive director, she is a very experienced career coach. And interestingly, for many of those who may not know this, I mean, Yen has been our executive director since last year when we started out the company. And Yen and I are actually very old friends from university. We were classmates in uni. So we go back a very long way. And she's one of the very few seasoned career coaches in Singapore that I respect very deeply. Okay, so I'm not going to put her online. I'm not going to embarrass her anymore. So I'm going to skip on a little bit more. So a lot of the topics we're going to talk about today is based on our book. Over here, the Exit Management Handbook. Got a copy over here. If you haven't already received a soft copy, email Gabby after this. We'll send you a soft copy. By the way, we don't make money on this book. So the main idea why we wrote the book is because we want companies in Singapore to adopt a certain level of acceptable practices with regards to retrenchment. More importantly, as HR leaders, we need to have the bullets to sometimes force the business leaders to understand that there is a business case, a very strong business case for compassionate retrenchment exercises. So in this book, we outline a lot of stories, a lot of cases, and what exactly are the best practices. So feel free to download it later, or if you want a hard copy, drop by our office. Okay. So, of course, disclaimer, right? Because we don't want to get sued, We are not going to make any nasty statements. Nothing in here is personal. The information which we gather is very strictly researched, and we have a lot of feedback as well from on the ground. So the main disclaimer here is that whatever we discuss today is highly confidential, and it's merely for discussion purposes with regards to promoting the HR community and practices here. Okay, so having said and done, let's jump into the meaty stuff. Whenever companies talk about things that went wrong with regards to retrenchment, one name always pops up, and that is Surbana Jurong. Okay, pops up. Here are the facts of the matter. You see, in January 2017, Surbana axed a whole bunch of people, and if you see, it was all over the news. Now, what actually happened back there? Let's jump into the facts of the matter. Okay. Number one, Surbana has a total manpower strength of about 3,000 staff around the world, global. 54 were let go. Okay, 26 of them were professionals, 9 of them were senior leaders, and it was, if you look at the biggest scheme of things, it's a very small percentage, less than 1% of people, or 1-ish% of people that were actually being let go. And the notifications were made on 14th of Jan, which I believe was a Saturday. And interestingly, anecdotally, so it's not proven. What was coming out of online forums was that the staff were given 2 letters, apparently, allegedly given 2 letters. Okay. One of them was, here's your resignation, here's your termination letter. Either one, pick or choose. And apparently the process did not sit well with a lot of the staff. And as I said, allegedly, because that's what we hear offline, okay, which is what you get jumping on the web. But the notifications were made on the 14th of January. Not many people heard about it. Okay, some people heard about little rumblings here and there. But what actually happened, that caught the public eye, was that the CEO sent an email on the Tuesday evening following, which started the whole ball rolling. The whole ruckus started mostly after the CEO sent out the mail. Okay? Now, what exactly was the content of the mail? He in a nutshell, you can go online and try and source out. I mean, there's no real copy of the mail it can be found online. But the gist of it was the CEO mentioned that it was not a retrenchment exercise, and they basically fired these guys for non-performance. Now, not the wisest thing to say at that point in time. Okay, could have been crafted better, and we'll discuss about that in a while. But at this point in time, I want to bring up a very interesting psychological phenomenon. It's called the Streisand effect. I don't know if you heard about the Streisand effect. Streisand effect is named after Barbra Streisand. Okay, Barbra Streisand is a singer. So basically, I can't remember what happened but when she did something interesting, and she tried to tell people, don't watch it, don't do it, don't find out what I did, and instead everybody jumped on it, and the effect was, instead of watering down or dumbing down or quieting down, people, what did she do? And everyone went on board, and everyone knew what she did. Maybe you can Google that a bit later, okay? So the CEO's email actually had a Streisand effect. And a lot of people going, what? Seriously? Oh, let me find out more. So that started the ball rolling. Several lessons were learned, okay, about the whole process. And I'll talk to you later also about the repercussions and the ending, what happened there. But the first lesson to be learned is fundamental. Poor timing. 14th Jan was very near the Chinese New Year, okay? Whatever it is, as far as you can, if you are in control of timing, do not do it before the Chinese New Year. Do not do it before Christmas. These are times of the year which I know you want to rush through. Your business may want to rush through financial year and things like that. But don't. If you can push back on the dates. Even after Chinese New Year, at least it's something. I understand, yes, some of us are working for MNCs, American companies. They don't care. Sorry, they don't care about Chinese New Year, and sometimes it's not in your control. So if you can't help it, then if they are insisting it must be done, then push back as much as you can. But there's only so much you can do, right? So what I used to do with my clients is I would explain to people in the US who have no idea what Chinese New Year is. I would tell them that Chinese New Year to us is Thanksgiving and Christmas and 4th of July all rolled into one. And then they understand, oh wow, is that significant? And yes, it is. Okay, so push back and let them know that it's taboo. There are a lot of also interesting incidences of poor timing happening. Okay, for instance, if you want to retrench staff, if it's an individual staff, make sure it's not their birth anniversary. Make sure it's not make sure it's not their birthday. Make sure it's not their work anniversary. You know, the last thing you want is to call someone who's been working 10 years on his work anniversary, and he comes into the office and he thinks that, hey, I'm going to get a long service award, and suddenly all you get is a pink slip. So watch for timing as well. But the biggest thing about this is that the CEO's email came out on the 17th of January evening, and it was very quick. But it was something which caught to attention the entire thing. Okay, so I'm going to hop on to the next lesson learned. The CEO's messaging. What was in that email? The email mentioned that it was not going through a retrenchment exercise. Okay, Surbana Jurong was not going through a retrenchment exercise, and they mentioned non-performers. People have been non-performers. So what was actually quoted by the newspapers was that what he said was, we cannot allow our 1% of poor performers to continue to affect the rest of the 99% of the staff are performing. Okay. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and that's the advice my wife gives me all the time. Okay, whenever I have a disagreement with her, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So the tone was perceived to be very arrogant, and if you look at it now, yeah, it does sound a bit arrogant. Okay, the way he said it, it was not apologetic that these people had to be let go. Okay, and it's one thing to fire people for non-performance. Okay, but the message was contradicting as well. As you see my last point, because apparently these people, these supposed non-performers, were actually given increments prior, and they were also given bonuses. So if you're really a non-performer and if you really fire somebody, okay, it is a contradicting message, because is it a retrenchment or is it not? The third lesson to be learned is that was due process even given to these people who got retrenched, who were exited? Because if they were allegedly non-performers, as I said earlier, where are the PIP records? Where were the performance documentation to show that these people were not performers? So if you are really going to let go 60 or 70 people due to non-performance, you better have all the documentation upright. Okay, and even then, you want to have a quiet exit and not let the whole world know that these people are all non-performers, because it affects their reputation in the market too. So in this case, the CEO and the organization had very little leg to stand on, but if you're saying that they're non-performers, because there was no documentation. And of course, there was poor PR, and if you look at it, the core of the matter was very poor PR. The big question was, the CEO's email resulted in a PR crisis. And the big question is, was the email out there even necessary? Yes, we agree the email out there was necessary. Was the tone of it, was the content of it, was it appropriate? Did corporate comms actually vet it? Did HR actually vet it before it went out? Okay, and once the horses have left the barn, okay, you can't get it back anymore. The crisis management did not seem to be in place. Was there a PR to recover? It was quite messy, and all the resulted was people getting angry. So watch for the PR aftermath that comes up after a retrenchment exercise. Okay, so any information that's going out has to be vetted through. And of course, one of the biggest things they did not get right was they did not involve the unions, which is very interesting, because if you see the stats here, 18 of the 54 impacted employees were actually unionized. And interestingly as well, up to 3 separate unions were involved, not just one, 3. And the fact that you did not involve them or did not seem to be involved, the unions were caught off guard. And of course, union leaders were very upset, and rightly so. And there was very strong blowback. In fact, if you look at the outcomes of it, the Minister of Manpower, Mr. Lim Swee, he brought it up, and it was really harsh the way he brought it up. And in fact, I'll show you some slides later about what was actually mentioned. But there are long-term repercussions with regards to an exit like that that's gone sideways. Okay, it's gone pear-shaped, because many years on now, in fact, if you look at it, it's about 4 years, 3 to 4 years later on. I understand that the organization still has challenges bringing on board talent, because people are going to go, oh, that company I know. So if an exit is not organized well enough, okay, you run the risk of talent pipelines being very, very tight down the road. And of course, you get reputation damage to the CEO, and but the CEO, he doesn't. It's up to him. He might care, he might not care. But more importantly, the employer reputation is affected with regards to the market. Okay, so the outcomes are there, and of course, the fallout, as you see, people took it personally. People really took it personally. They put, you see, Surbana CEO on the fire. They did not talk about the company. They talk about the CEO and the leadership. And then they start filtering down, they start extrapolating, is that what the company is all about, So you have to manage that correctly. And even Lim Swee Say said, he put his head in and he was quite harsh about it, okay? And what's one of the biggest drawbacks, you see? You get on Glassdoor, Surbana Jurong having 2.2 rating. So, and as we all know, when you hop on to Glassdoor, you actually see a lot of comments as well. So I leave it to you to pop in there to look at the comments, okay? But that is, companies spend so much money to boost up their employer branding in the market, and one fell swoop, it goes down to 2.2. Okay, so in the bigger scheme of things, this is our assessment, honest assessment, okay? They had justifiable reasons for optimizing their business, okay, via right sizing. They clearly had 3,000 people, okay, they had to reduce. So I think the downsizing was justifiable. All organizations now, honestly, could afford to relook their org charts and see how do you streamline things. I think that's fine. I have a very philosophical view on it. I don't call it downsizing, I call it pruning the tree, okay, because sometimes you just need to maintain the organization effectiveness. So you do what you can for those who may no longer be relevant, but you do it passionately, you do it compassionately. So did they have a right to do it? Yes, they did. But the bigger question was how they did it. And in fact, the thing that puzzles us is, at the end of the day, who was in charge? Was it the business in charge? Was it the CEO bulldozing his way through? We don't know. HR, was it the business deciding it? More importantly, where was HR? What was HR doing? What role should HR play? And this is something that we should all ask ourselves as HR practitioners. What role should we play? Should we play second fiddle to a retrenchment exercise? Or should we be playing an advisory role to the business leaders who are making the call? Or should we just take charge about that? So I have a friend who was a very close friend, was the HR director, and she has taken. There was one situation where the company, the organization, the business leaders were waffling between, should we notify this person because this person's on holiday? Should we on vacation? Maybe we wait till the person comes back, or should we notify them? And they kept delaying it. And this person, this HR leader of mine, she put her foot down and she said, "Okay, we're going to do it this way. If you don't like it, tell me to stop. But I'm going to do it this way." And then she did it the right way in the end. Okay, she waited till the person came back from the vacation to inform them. So the point is, what role should HR play? And the sad thing about it is that something that Yen always says, and I always find it very true, albeit a bit amusing, but it's true, is that HR has a thankless job. When things go right, no one thanks you. Okay, no one says, "Oh, great job, HR." But when things go wrong, they always go, HR's fault. HR's fault, see? So what is HR's role in this? You can have a think about it, we can discuss it later. But definitely the messaging could have been better, okay? And even the service recovery after that, the PR recovery could have been better as well. So in our assessment, Surbana had all the right in the world to let the people go. The messaging and the process was not done correctly, or could have been done better. And therefore, the company got into trouble because of that and got into big trouble, reputationally. Okay, the other case now we're going to talk about is DFS. So DFS laid off about 60 staff. Some say 100, only in October last year. And we're going to look at a case study over there. This one we're just going to run through more quickly because I don't want to belabor. This has been more recent in terms of the public memory. Okay? So they let go about 60 to 100 staff. The staff were notified on what is that? On the 26th actually. It's quite. The news went public on the same day, thanks to social media. And when we did our research online, these were some of the comments which the staff brought up and they were interviewed by the press. In this whole exercise, money is a top consideration, not people. That's what made us feel very, very upset. We are like a piece of used tissue paper and there was no pre-warning, too sudden, no dialogue. These are emotional comments which the staff affected and impacted staff rightly would feel. But it's sad when the process comes to a point where they feel so frustrated, they go to the press with this. Okay, so we're going to look at the lessons learned. Number one, the communications-wise. What we felt from the very limited information that came out was that the messaging was a bit too abrupt and a bit too unexpected. So we find that maybe perhaps the messaging, the managers could be better trained. Maybe perhaps the business leaders could play a more proactive role in appearing compassionate or taking the lead. So we don't really know what actually went in there, but all we can see is the aftermath. Okay? And apparently, anecdotally, the optics were bad because staff were escorted off premises immediately. And we're not talking about just walking out. They were literally escorted by somebody. And some comments we see is that they felt very offended. The staff felt offended because they said, "Wow, I've worked here for 25 years, and you're afraid I might take something on the way out." You know, so optics are bad. If you have to escort staff off the premises, don't use security guards or don't use. You can get HR to do it, okay, in a compassionate way, or you know, one of the ways which we recommend is tell them, okay, you can take a day off. You know, you can come in on a Saturday when no one's around to clear your stuff. It's fine. Okay, so optics are very important. And one of the things that happened was that no post-separation support was given. So the staff that were exited, they felt they were left out in the cold because they were not given career transition support. And as a result, the staff felt very unhappy and they felt that I've been abandoned. So it's like a kid being lost in the supermarket, basically. Okay, so mommy, daddy's not here, what do I do? And especially more painful for them because a lot of them were there for 10, 15, 25 years even. So many of them did not even have a CV. So, you know, the cheap thing is send them to WSG. And yeah, WSG can help and WSG will help. But there's only so much WSG can do. So start thinking as HR leaders, what other support can we give them? Once again, DFS did not consult the unions. And now I know, you know, HR and unions have a bit of a love-hate relationship. Maybe a bit more of the latter part than the former part. But, you know, they are there for a reason and you do work with them. Unions, you got to work with them. And ultimately, the unions are there for a purpose. They're there to defend workers' rights. And they are rather bristly, okay? The moment they sniff something that's not right, okay, they're going to come up and they're going to make an issue out of it. And I think that's fair. That's what they're there for. So work together with unions. Repercussions, what happened at the end? You see, you got special mention from Minister Josephine Teo. Ouch, on Facebook some more. Okay, DFS could have better handled their recent retrenchment exercise. That was the kindest cut ever to be delivered. Okay, because I'm sure there could be worse ways of saying it. But you know, once again, the aftermath, DFS group, you see on Glassdoor rating 3.0. Follow outcome was, of course, bad press, special mention. And the thing I want to mention here is this, okay? When DFS first retrenched the staff, their original offer was 2 weeks for every year. 2 weeks for every year, capped at 13 weeks of pay. But after TAFEP came in, after MOM came in, after all the bad press, all the unions sat down and squatted on them, The eventual offer was 1 month for every year, kept at 25 years. So from a 2 weeks per year, max at 13 weeks, they ended up paying almost 25 months of the max cap. Okay, so if you look at it, the outcome was far from desirable for the company. And of course, they were even probed by TAFEP. I don't even know what that means, but the press just says DFS was being probed by TAFEP. Okay, so that sounds serious, that sounds horrible. Okay, but and of course, reputation damage. Our assessment of it was that once again, the retrenchment exercise was unavoidable and it was actually justifiable. They were facing tremendous pressure from the business and they had to let people go. In fact, as we were doing the research on this, we were looking back, in October last year, they let Lotte take over, the Korean company, take over the operation. And if you look at the COVID situation now, I think DFS shareholders probably think it was a wise move to do at the time because it was good to exit it. Now there's almost no business. Okay, but the thing about what in our assessment, what we really felt was that, if they had not made a mess out of, if they not made it so messy in terms of the optics and everything, if they're keeping on the quiet and if they provided a bit more support, they could have gotten away with the original offer of 2 weeks per year, kept at 13 weeks. Why? Because in Singapore, as we know, there are only guidelines as to how much you can give, how much you should be giving as a package. 2 weeks a year, kept at 13 weeks. I know companies who have gotten away with it. And I know companies have gotten away with zero weeks per year as well. Okay? So there's no hard and fast rule. But because they kicked up a hornet's nest, suddenly now, if you look back, they had to end up paying up to 2 years of salary. Okay, so the point is this: they could have gotten away with it. Okay, and once again, more importantly, where was HR? What was HR doing? But once again, as I said, it's going to point back down. The finger's going to point. It's HR's fault. Fairly or unfairly, people are going to point the finger. It's HR's fault. So when you are managing an exit, okay, as HR, you are the leader. You have to take charge. You have to make special effort to ensure that everything is executed correctly, because at the end of the day, you don't want this happening on your watch. But I want to make a special mention, okay, for DFS on reputation recovery, because after everything was settled, 30 of the staff met with the CFO, Zach Coughlin. And this was what happened. He apologized and took personal responsibility for how the retrenchment was carried out on 26 September. Okay? He actually apologized and took responsibility. And he also mentioned that he didn't expect that the American way of retrenching staff was not appropriate in Singapore's context. He said DFS will need to rebuild the broken trust and image. So you see, at the end of the day, DFS, because of the leadership of Zach, okay, I don't know him personally, but he did some reputation recovery over there. And compare and contrast with the earlier case, which was not reported. So it's not too late when things happen. It's how you do it. And as HR leaders right now, you can use cases like these to convince your management on how to do how to conduct the exit management with care. Okay, so any questions we'll leave to the end of the presentation. But those were two cases of things that went kind of sideways. Okay, went pear-shaped. I want to show you. Then a lot of clients are also saying, so Adrian, what is a good case of compassionate and fair retrenchment? And in our research, we've done a lot of cases, and what we found out is that there are not many cases out there. Okay, but we found one that did exceptionally well. And some of you may not agree with what they did, but look at the aftermath. Look at the end results, and you tell me whether or not Toyota did the right thing. So Toyota had a plant, the Altona plant in Melbourne, Australia. This was a huge plant. I believe they had close to 3,000 staff, and they had to shut down the plant in 2017. It was a 55-year-old plant, and it was a cornerstone of the Altona economy. So they're actually a lot of, it was almost the main employer for the business in the town, which means if you shut it down, the town's almost dead. Okay, so Toyota didn't want to do that, and there are about 2,600 staff that were impacted. So what they did right? Well, the first things first is the CEO flew down, Akio Toyoda, okay, the CEO himself. He flew down from Japan, and he landed in at the plant, and he delivered a message. And he delivered a message very compassionately. He gave a very deep bow, and he apologized. He said, "We're shutting down the plant," and he said that we tried everything, but this has to happen. And the biggest surprise was that the plant is going to be a shutdown 3.5 years from that day. 3.5 years notice period he gave them. He said, "Look, it's not like we're going to shut down next month. This is what we're going to do. In the meantime, we're going to put in place actions to help you to recover." So at the end of the day, they actually gave very good severance packages, okay, up to 24 months on average. In fact, 24 months was the average which he gave out. And what was really good was that in the 3.5 years, HR tried their best to redeploy a lot of their staff to the sales, to the service side of things. And for those that who could not be redeployed, they offered career transition services, okay, outplacement services before the retrenchment date itself, before the plant shutdown date, 12 months before. And what was really cool also was that Toyota actually invested millions in the retraining of their staff. Those who were exited, they actually set up a school, a training center for the exiting staff to be retrained, and not retrained in automotive business. Some were retrained as nurses, a couple were even retrained to be pilots. Okay, so there was a lot of them were also retrained to be teachers. So Toyota literally invested in the community to make sure that those people, the 2,600 people who were affected, their lives could go on, even though the plant was no longer there. A lot of money, right? I can imagine, yes. But the big question is, what did they achieve from that? No? Millions and millions of dollars, what did they achieve from that? Number one, they came out with the reputation intact. Why is it reputation? So what Toyota, the reputation intact? Because you see, the Altona plant was not the only plant in the world for them. The Altona plant was one of many. Globally, when all the other plants saw the care and the concern and the level of compassion that was given out to the Altona plant, there was no repercussions across the other plants. Productivity was up, quality was up as well. So internally, there was very minimal effects on their productivity globally. Okay, and interestingly, this plant in Altona was producing cars all the way to the last day, which means that on the last day itself, the final car rolled out. Can you imagine if the morale went down, if Toyota management treated everyone like dirt and say, "Oh, it's too bad, tough guys"? I can bet you I wouldn't want to buy the last car that rolls off, because it's going to be a wheel missing or the brake lines may not even be there. So interestingly, they did a test on the last car that rolled out. The quality control on the car was even higher, had a higher rating than the average norm, okay, of the cars that rolled out that factory. So you see the quality and productivity kept up high. And I want to bring this up because we had another client last year, and they called us to do their outplacement, and they originally did not want to provide outplacement for those guys, for their staff, but they wanted the operations, the customer service operations to be there all the way to June, which is June this year. Okay, and I told them, look, if you treat your staff badly, I can bet you half of them are going to leave. Okay, the other half who are staying behind, they're not gonna focus on the customer care. So you're gonna have a lot of unhappy customers who's gonna give you very negative blowback. So think about the impact to the business when you're thinking of interventions and support. Okay, and of course, Toyota's early career transition intervention saved on benefits, because apparently a large number of people found jobs and they left before the 3.5 years were up. And what happened was that when they left, they decided not to collect on the package because they didn't qualify for the package. So they saved a bundle as well on benefits that did not have to be paid out. And of course, one of the biggest achievements they had was that across the years, they maintained the number one auto sales in Australia, because Australians in general, they see the way that Toyota is taking care of their fellow Aussies. They continue buying Toyota, Corollas, the Camrys and everything. They're still number one in Australia. So the last, as I said earlier, the last car rollout had a higher quality than normal rates. So all in all, they continued making money. All in all, they continued doing very well in terms of sales, and the reputation is still very high up there in Australia right now. So that to us is kind of the gold standard if you're looking at how to manage an exit event. Okay, you need to retrench staff. That's it. I know companies are going to say, but we're retrenching staff because we have cash constraints, no? But it's up to HR's job to convince them to do the right thing. And it's not easy. And for us, there's one thing one of my mentors always said is this: there's the easy thing to do, and there's the right thing to do. So sometimes the easy thing is not the right thing, and sometimes the right thing is not the easy thing. So as HR leaders, what are we? We are the soul of the company. We are the custodians of doing right. Okay, so conclusion is there is always a business case for compassionate retrenchment. And if you don't do it right, I can tell you that the government is going to step in if you to intervene. We are seeing increased retrenchment activities in 2020, 2021, and even beyond. If you ask us for the outlook on what the economy is going to be, I've been talking to a lot of my business contacts and CEOs who are our clients in the market. They are saying that the global economy is going to be bad. And it's going to be bad because it all depends on how fast America can recover, because America is not even at the crest yet. Okay, they haven't gotten hit yet to the max. Italy's shutdown, Spain's shutdown has how effective is it? Nobody knows yet. See, and if they can come out of it quickly, then fine. But one thing is that the outlook for Singapore has been quite promising, though, because we're going to experience a very sharp V-shaped curve, V-shaped bounce up very quickly because we are ready. But even as the economy picks up and we are hoping that the recession will not be too prolonged, there will still be a need for business transformation. And as far as business transformation due to the new pressures on the economy are concerned, that normally results in workforce transformation, which means staff need to be pruned off. Okay, so there will be increased retrenchment activity in the coming months, in the coming year or two. Be ready for it. If you need any advice, okay, with regards to the process, just give me a call, give Vivian or myself an email. Okay, happy to help give you advice because we've done so many of these. And of course, be very watchful, be very careful of the watchful eyes of the government. You have the MOM, you have TAFEP, you have the unions, you have NTUC. Everyone's watching you. Okay, so make sure you do the right thing. And of course, maybe what you want to discuss on your own, is what is HR's role in all of this? Should we play a role that's very laid back, or whatever the business says, or do we push? And how hard do we push? How can we push? Can we even push back? Okay, so that's something you need to think about it. We've come to the end of the presentation, and we have time for 10 more minutes for questions. And I'm wondering whether or not any questions. Sorry,
I'd like to jump in at this point.
Yes, yeah.
Can I just jump in at this point?
Of course, jump.
I wanted to highlight that HR's thankless tasks. It's a very difficult position to be in if you are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and circumstances are sometimes not within your control. So if you have a very pushy business leader or a very difficult C-suite leader who's going to bulldoze their way through and force you to do things that you might be uncomfortable doing, it's not healthy. So on the one hand, there's this thing to consider. That's your role, your job, your responsibility, and it's your job to execute the policies. But on the other hand, you're also a human being, and you are also in a role. And one of the things that we have done a lot in recently is to run a lot of workshops on how to handle difficult bosses. So I get questions like this all the time. It's like, oh, but my boss is this type of personality. Then what do I do? How do I handle it? And in your case, if you're going to have to manage a difficult situation, especially with bosses who are going to be particularly difficult, sometimes it's a matter of building up that confidence or that executive presence, or maybe you just need to build onto some strategies how to handle and how to push back gently and yet powerfully. We do a lot of that as well in a one-to-one coaching with specifically with HR folks. So if you need help with that, please reach out to us.
Okay.
That's my piece. That's all I have to say, because I feel like it's really unfair.
Okay, we're going to get some questions out here. Yep, you
Yes. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat box.
Yes.
It's easier for me to read it out. So we have an interesting question from Jane, and Jane is asking, how reliable are Glassdoor ratings and comments, and what can companies do to improve the Glassdoor page, the company, and what are other popular sites like Glassdoor?
Okay. So once again, the question is, how reliable are Glassdoor ratings and comments? Does it matter? Because any unhappy person can just go in, right? But the fact is, it doesn't matter because the comments are up there already. And what can a company do to improve the Glassdoor page? Well, it's there's only so much you can do. I mean, if a company really wants to repair, they can create fake accounts, go in and say, wow, the company is great, CEO is lovely. But how many of those can you do? And if you really piss off like 4,000 people, you want to bump up the rating again, you're going to generate another 4,000 fake accounts? I don't think so. So Glassdoor ratings are damaging. But even as end users ourselves, we take Glassdoor ratings as a with a pinch of salt. In fact, not even a pinch, sometimes a shovel. Okay, but it's not. Let's not instigate events to encourage the ex-employees to come on Glassdoor to step on to give bad comments anyway. Okay. Another question would be, Gabby?
Yeah, so maybe, sorry, just something to add to what about Glassdoor. I think at the end, that talent, when you want to apply for roles in your company, they will inevitably look at Glassdoor. And if the negative comments overwhelm the positive comments, it's very easy to show that the company has bad employee branding. And right now, it's really a war for talent. So you're putting yourself in a very bad seat, in a bad position for your future talent acquisition exercise, as Adrian has mentioned. Yeah, so Michael actually has an observation as well as a question. So Michael was saying that it sounds like HR is blamed for poor handling of exit management. He was wondering whether were there any reasons that they gave?
Well, for these two cases, HR was very silent on it. We did our research. We didn't go so far as to call up the person in charge and at the time and say, hey, what happened? But it's not. If you ask me as a headhunter, okay, I'm a veteran headhunter, and when something like this happens on your watch, it speaks to fairly or unfairly your leadership style during that period. Okay, it's like one of those things that is unfair. But it's like when I was in Shell, okay, very young in my career, I was sales. I was doing sales at the time, and you can be a top salesperson, but if one of your clients defaults, and you end up with a bad debt, that thing hangs over you the rest of your life, your career in Shell. He was a guy who couldn't stop, who had a $500,000 bad debt. Okay, and it's career ruining event. So fairly or unfairly, it doesn't matter. But if you're in HR and if that happens on your watch, it somehow affects you in terms of professional branding. What do you think, Ian?
think with just like adding to the point I was trying to make earlier, and also the point that Michael made again later on, he said that HR practitioners may need to up managerial courage as a critical competency. I'm going to do a shameless plug-in, because one of the things you have to do in managing your own career or accelerating your career or being resilient in your career is to build your executive presence and your communication skills to push back, especially at board level. And so we run regular career acceleration workshops where we share with you all sorts of strategies to manage such situations. We've created a model on the types of bosses there are, understanding their agenda and all that. But ultimately, I guess the common denominator here is that it's a business, right? It's a business case. And if you can make a statement that the reputation, not just a professional one, but the personal reputation of such leaders is going to be dragged through the mud, then they may just listen to your logic and provide a little bit more care. Because when you just say, hey, it's good for the people are the bosses are going to think, why bother? I need to worry about the bottom line. And so this is one of the areas that we want to think about. Talk to us again about how you can learn the skills and the art of managing difficult bosses.
Yeah. We are very focused now on helping HR leaders, especially younger leaders, to accelerate their careers, because we see the increasing complexity in the market requires an increasingly complex set of skills, which sometimes schools can teach, but for us, we base a lot of our work on research based on the School of Hard Knocks. So we do run acceleration workshops, but that's another story for another time. We have one quick question here from CK that, for the Australian example, do you think the strong labour unions in Toyota play a role? Definitely so. I think if unions weren't so active, or didn't have the strength, then definitely Toyota may not have done what it did. But if you look at it, Toyota did over and above what was minimally required. They did not have to notify everyone 3.5 years in advance. They did not have to invest in people becoming pilots or nurses. So I think the soul of Toyota they had their DNA right. So the value system speaks volumes. Any other questions?
There was one interesting question from Michael, who says, do you think that management is actually bullying HR?
HR is always being bullied anyway, so but yeah, so there's always a constant push-pull, I believe, between HR and management. So to Yen's point, you need to know how to push back, and even right down to a simple thing like executive presence. Just knowing your stuff, knowing your work, knowing your content, and being able to have the executive presence to push back, okay, can determine your effectiveness as an HR business leader. But more importantly, what is the job of the HR? What is the job of the HR business leader in the first place? I always believe it's to do the right thing for the company, okay. And we always believe that it's something that should be trained and should be taught. In fact, what was interesting is when we did the book launch last year in October at IHRP, and we had a guest, Rachel Fu, who is a very senior HR, one of our friends of the company. Okay, she gave her experience, and she was sharing on how the company, one of the previous companies she was with, decided to make a decision, and she pushed back. She really pushed back so hard, and the business listened to her. Okay, after the talk, I was talking to some mid-junior level HR managers, and I asked them, how do you feel about the talk? And she said, I was so surprised. You mean we can actually disagree with the business? Okay, yeah, you can, you should. If it's not right, you should. So which is very surprising, okay? And moving forward, the evolution of HR is that if you see HR, okay, I'm going to go on a separate note here since we do have a couple of minutes, okay. If you look at the evolution of HR in the past 30 years, HR has come a long way. From the old admin type roles we saw back in the 70s to where it is today. In fact, in the old days, they weren't even called HR. What was the old HR roles, HR managers called? Do you remember? Anyone? Yeah, Serena says personnel manager, right? So archaic. Yeah, but we're not seeing personnel managers anymore. We're not seeing admin managers anymore, right? Now we're seeing business partnering. So there's an evolution forward. HR, the non-essential core events or functions of HR are being outsourced. What are non-essential core? Well, I hate to say it, but in the next couple of months, those HR people that are going to be retrenched, you will know very rudely whether you're core or not. Okay, training and development. There are no more budgets. In fact, if there are budgets, there's no more training sessions anymore because you can't get more than 10 in the room or 20 in the room, right? So why should we keep an L&D guy? And then you got a talent acquisition. No one's hiring. So we are seeing an evolution of operations admin to very core strategic business partnering, commercial type of leadership. Okay, and if you ask me what is in that form, what is the core value add of HR? What's the core purpose of HR? I would say the core purpose of HR in that future state would be to improve the quality of commercial decisions for the business. And that is the role of the future HR, if you ask me. Okay, it's not about how much bonus should we pay, or they're just there to talk to the HR, talk to the business partner, the leader. How do we make better decisions? And this is my input. Okay, so yeah. Any other questions before we go? I'm enjoying myself, so I can actually talk for another hour or two. Extend your lunchtime. Jane, any questions? Serena? You can jump on the mic and just say something.
No, I think this was good. It's been very insightful, very interesting. And for HR to push back, I think that's correct. But a lot of it comes from experience as well, and from knowing what you need to know, knowing how to influence without authority, and knowing how to convince leaders to see it from a different point of view as to why you need to push certain things along.
Very true. And
yeah, and you're very good at that, Serena.
I don't know.
Okay. If you found this session useful, okay, we will organize future events for HR as well, not just with reference to retrenchment, but as you know, as our company name suggests, it's career agility, right? So one of the things we want to work on as well is with HR. To in terms of your career development, your own personal career development within HR. I spent an hour and a half yesterday talking to a very senior HR person yesterday, 53 years old, and he was really confused because he knew he was too expensive. He knew he was in a local bank, okay. And prior to that, he was with really big branded companies, global companies, and he had trouble landing a new job, even though he was looking for a new role. But the big challenge was that his branding, his positioning, and everything was all wrong. So if you are in such a situation, please feel free to give us a call. Happy to have a discussion with you. And yeah, just happy to give you advice. Maybe we see ourselves as friends of HR. So call us anytime you need. Drop us a message. And if you have any questions regarding retrenchments, or just message us, okay? In the meantime, thanks for coming, and I really enjoyed having this.
Sorry, hang on.
Oh,
sorry to interrupt, Adrian.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just for those who have not actually received a copy of this book, can you just drop us an email at info@careeragility.org? I'm happy to send you an ebook because I know holding onto this hard copy could be quite sensitive right in your office. So just drop me an email. I will give you a soft copy, and please share this with anybody who will see this. What did you do, Adrian? Okay, so
I just lost $10. I made a bet with Yen that I would knock this over before the webinar was over. So okay, Yen, I owe you $10.
okay. So before we lose any more participants, we actually have a community of practice that we send relevant articles to every single week. So let me know if you'd like to opt into our weekly newsletter. In fact, content is already generated by Yin and myself. So just share your email address with me and I'll send you out, keep out in our newsletter. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for your questions. Back to you, Adrian.